Mansplaining on this truly tragic day. Unfortunately, I am not going to be quite so upbeat today. We had a different program scheduled for this evening, and we had to pivot due to the absolutely heartbreaking, gut-wrenching assassination of Charlie Kirk. As most of you who are watching already know, Charlie Kirk, for those of you who don't know, which remarkably I've been talking to people, and some people actually were saying that they don't know who Charlie Kirk is after this happened. He's essentially the number one center right-wing pundit. I mean, he's probably got the biggest platform, the biggest following of any right-wing pundit that I know. I mean, he's bigger than Daily Wire. He's bigger than a lot of independents. He's got millions of subs on basically every platform. But
and Turning Point is international.
Yeah, he's a owner of Turning Point, owner co-founder of Turning Point, and he's a husband and a father, and
just 31 years old.
Just 31 years old, way too young to suffer this kind of tragedy. And of course, for those of you who were not up to date on this, somebody took a shot at him and basically bullseyed him in the neck. And
a targeted assassination.
And he was rushed to the hospital. Yeah, he was rushed to the hospital. Didn't make it. I honestly, after seeing the wound, I was stunned that he even made it to the hospital. It was so horrific. I just a quick disclaimer before we really dig into this topic. For those of you guys who are watching, before you even discuss this with us, before you listen to the conversation, before you go looking for any videos online, I implore you to prepare yourself, because this is a truly gruesome event, and it is not an easy thing to watch. It's not an easy thing to talk about. So I understand that that's what you're getting yourself into before you get yourself into it. So we're joined today by my brother, Matt. Matt, welcome to the show. Unfortunately, it's under these trying circumstances, but it's good to have you anyway. It's good to, this is when I feel like family should get together and camaraderie and stuff. So
yeah. One of the things I just want to say first, in appreciation of Charlie Kirk, we didn't know him personally, but he was what we aspired to as a channel. He was a common man. He was not an elite.
Right.
Did not have doctorate degrees. He did not hold positions of power.
Right.
He had, from his platform, had recently been able to meet President Trump, and so they're calling him a close ally. But he was too young to have these. He started off just questioning liberal orthodoxy as a common man, and why it should matter to just normal, everyday, average students. So he wasn't. His debates weren't with elites. He wasn't going out to engage on the talk shows and things like that. Other people do that, like Ben Shapiro. But he was going to students and trying to see them and trying to change their hearts and minds and speaking, common sense.
Yep.
And was starting to actually change people's minds, trying to get through, starting to really make people think. And this younger generation have shown is more conservative than millennials, certainly more conservative than baby boomers, closer to Gen X, which is what I am. And that, sadly, made him a target. Yeah. So, he was getting resistance. There were people who were fighting against his events, his scheduled events, trying to resist that. We thought it was just, normal left-wing knee-jerk reaction to anyone that doesn't follow the orthodoxy. But sadly, that type of opposition has, with the language that the left has used to vilify anybody who is not to their far left,
yep.
They call them far-right extremists, Nazis, has weaponized and triggered an excuse to use violence. In this case, somebody felt like that Charlie Kirk was a big enough symbol of right-wing ideas that he deserved to die. And it was that person's will that we have to live in that world today.
Yep. Truly a tragedy.
I have, absolutely. And so the things that come to my mind immediately when you first informed me, Eddie, earlier today that this happened is because we're all dads here. Yeah. And he has two little children, ages 3 and 1. And they're never going to hug their father again. And obviously, I think all 3 of us and every other father out there is going to have that same thought of, I wish I could hug my dad. And 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 I wish I could hug my dad
Yes.
How would our families handle this if it happened to us? Because that's the thing. And you mentioned this, Christian, for Charlie Kirk, all he really did was talk. All he did was discuss verbally, and he was effective at it. He was very good at it.
Yep.
That's all he was doing. And if he is far right, as some have claimed, that I'm Francisco Franco, and they killed him.
Yeah.
He was assassinated for his views. What would they do to us?
Well,
they would
for having to go, you can have views, but you keep them to yourself. Right?
Yeah, right.
He was assassinated for having the gall to share those views and to change people's minds with those views.
Right? And for being effective. Yeah, that's right. That's the biggest point there, is that he was a threat to the ideology he opposed. He was a massive threat because he was a common man.
Yeah, he was a common, and not only was he a common man, he was very, very intelligent, like lightning sharp, extremely well read, extremely well, very charismatic, a very gifted speaker. He was one of those who spoke, like his style was a little, like he talked a little bit fast, a little bit too fast for my taste, but man, he could keep it together. He was able to think on his feet. He was able to counter basically every other, every liberal ideology talking point with his own, and they were often more powerful, more persuasive points, the ones that he brought up. And I mean, it's like, first thing I thought too is like, I'm a father. Here I am as a potential, social media presence, right? Like we're nothing.
Out there.
This is what they want. They want to silence. Well, conservatives, especially on campus, for a long time, have been undergoing a type of social pressure by professors or others, right, to keep them quiet. I think we're going to look back on 2022 as peak woke, the height of peak woke, when they were at their power, that they could use threats of, to silence opposition, right? Obviously, that spell's been broken, and people are waking up to it. They see the emperor has no clothes, especially on gender issues, especially on immigration issues, on just traditional common sense, crime, law and order issues.
Nothing that we haven't been saying for like 30 years.
Yes.
And that is going to get you killed now.
Yeah, it's insane.
Well, these are the death throes. Obviously, this is not going to work. This is only going to amplify Charlie Kirk. We're looking everything that Charlie Kirk said. People are going back to, was this what he said that got him killed? Is this what ticked people off? Was his exposure or was his talking point on this? And so, we have to make him a martyr, right? And even though the left will try to disown this, they've called anybody to their right deplorable, especially the common man deplorable. They're the ones who dehumanized anybody who was right of their radical ideology. Anybody who just wanted common sense. Christianity was labeled an extremist, whacked up, and mocked.
And not only that, like not only just anybody who's actually right wing, right? Like Charlie Kirk is what I would consider a center right guy. I mean, he's not that. He's essentially moderate. I mean, he's not
compared to me.
He's not above, like, for example, criticizing his own side. He criticized Trump on many occasions. He's definitely one who's like willing to make concessions in speeches and arguments. Like, he's not the kind of guy that's like only.
I have plenty of disagreements with him.
Right. Yeah. I have plenty of disagreements with him too. But you know what? We can never let just a disagreement be enough to like it. If you are at the point where you're ready to perform violence because that's the point where you've lost the battle of ideas. That's the point where you've already conceded defeat in your ideology. So,
and I will say,
go ahead,
Kristen.
I'm like, he was not a soldier. He was not a political leader. He was not an official in any way. So it's not like you can say that this was done for any type of strategic or warfare. It was done purely because of ideology, just because a common person speaking.
Right, and so. One thing that's interesting to note too is that, I mean, so the left, one of the primary reactions that I'm getting from the left is that, we don't know why Charlie Kirk was killed. It's one of the first things that I'm hearing. And I'm like, okay, listen, this is not like someone taking a shot at Trump, who's vilified in the media all the time for potentially like for actions he's taken as a matter of his governance, right? So like you could theoretically be like right wing and still hate Trump, right? There's no reason to go after Charlie Kirk unless you are ideologically motivated against him. There's the only reason to do it. He just has no exposure. Appreciate it, Andy.
Yeah, it's not because he cut somebody off of the parking lot.
Andy says, "You guys look tired, and we should have a shot of espresso."
Well, we got some sugar right here. Common man.
Well, the other thing too is, I mean, like normally I'm in better spirits. Normally I'm more upbeat. So this is one of those days where you're going to see the bags under my eyes. You're going to see that I had to spend the last 4 hours frantically researching and like throwing everything that I had planned out for this program out, because I had to change the program and pivot to the new topic and like to try to stay abreast of everything at the same time. And I had to comfort my son, who literally called me on the way over here and said, "Daddy, please don't let this happen to you." And I have nothing to console him with other than, well, you don't have to worry about it because I'm not as popular as Charlie Kirk yet.
Something similar with me and my wife conversation there took place, which is why I have some puffiness around my eyes, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. And I mentioned this a little before we went live, and I do want to give some props to these two people who are on the left. First was Senator John Fetterman, who I must say he made he said the right thing. He absolutely did the right thing here.
You have a statement in front of you?
I can find it.
You can pull it up because I think it was very classy. I saw it briefly as I was looking at it.
And let me see if I can pull it up here.
So class is one thing. So this is the
I can read it.
Is our actions going to change as far as their rhetoric to their own people about the left? Are they willing to, condemn this attack, but condemn any violence against the right?
Yeah, he said, "I condemn this in the strongest terms. There is zero place in our great country for these horrendous acts of political violence. We must find a better way forward." Amen. I definitely appreciate that from Senator Fetterman. And I will also shout out someone I never thought I would shout out ever, and that's Cenk Uygur.
Yeah.
And I will give this to him as well. I'll read his one of the things he tweeted. Also, one other has expletives, which I won't read, but he did say this. He said, "What happened to Charlie Kirk is one of the worst things that has happened in American politics. My heart goes out to his family. F whoever did this. Not only is it deeply tragic, but we are now all in danger. Violence is always wrong, and it's intellectual surrender." Very, basically the exact same thing you pointed out there, Christian. But so absolutely props to these men. These men I can share a country with extremely passionate disagreements. I can share a country with them.
Yep.
There are some, though, that I cannot. Yeah. And I do not want to share a country with those who are dancing on his grave and those who, frankly, earlier already were excusing and applauding political violence.
Like people like
Destiny and Hassan Piker and their ilk. And I will call them out.
And you know what?
They are despicable.
Destiny is one of those who, like, when asked why he won't condemn violence on the right, he'll say things like, "Oh, well, the right won't condemn violence on the left." Yes, we do, all the time. I'll say it right now. I condemn political violence in any situation, ever. Right? The only time where violence is reasonable, the only time, is when you are defending the lives of family or friends. That's it. Period. And that goes for just wars because you're doing the same thing. That's the only time you're defending family or friends. Other than that, violence is not ever acceptable. Like, ever. And so this is what drives me nuts is people like Destiny will say stuff like that. I mean, he was basically happy that Trump got shot at. He was
happy that Corey Comparator was killed. He was happy about that.
Right. Somebody who doesn't want to debate, who doesn't want new ideas, right? as happy that their debate opponent has died rather than change their mind. Well, I couldn't change their mind with my ideas, or my idea was for losing. My debate opponent just died, and was killed by somebody who supports me. Well, I must have won, and to feel like they won that debate. No. They lost that debate. Their ideas are forfeit. They can't change your mind with ideas. They have to change your mind through force. That is the hellscape of the left. That is
it really is, but it is a hellscape. And frankly, the punishment that they should all receive, if I'm feeling kind, is exile. Send them all to China.
I'll tell you what, I mean, it's again, like I would never condone violence of any sort. I mean, what's amazing to me is now that Charlie Kirk, of course, he's in the news today. Of course, he's really big. Everybody's looking him up online. What astounds me is that I'm getting all these hits on this old Charlie Kirk gun control video on my channel, and people are like, ha ha ha, bet you wish there was gun control now, huh, Charlie Kirk, huh? I'm like, what an ignorant, dumbass thing to say. It's the stupidest. I cannot believe that people are so ungrateful, so uncompassionate that they can just tread on somebody else's grave like that, literally hours after it happens. And instead of saying anything kind, instead of having any kind of remorse for the situation at all they can do is say, I told you so. This is unbelievable.
Well, yeah, and trying to use it to remove constitutional rights, which is something he always stood for.
Right. And Charlie Kirk, let me tell you something. Charlie Kirk was a principled person, the kind of person that wouldn't compromise his principles just because things didn't go his way for that day. Okay, that's not the kind of person he was. So, no, this didn't change his mind. It wouldn't have changed his mind. It certainly didn't change my mind. As a matter of fact, if anything, I hope that people go out and get a gun now and protect themselves against ignorant idiots like that.
That's what's happening. We're getting more strapped, not less.
No kidding.
And for all you people on the left, and you have this ilk, and you have this kind of mindset, you keep pushing it, you're not going to like the results.
Right. So we're feeling very emotional now. This is one of the things the left has pushed emotion on their arguments, right? The appeals at the end of Kamala Harris's campaign were not appeals to why we should vote for her. There was no reasoning. There was nothing. There was no thought. It was all just emotional, and it was fear language and stuff that people would get in. People would get in the voting booths and feel emotional and vote for them, right? Charlie Kirk, right, and the right. These are ideas. He wasn't out there just screaming and trying to get emotional and trying to manipulate people with emotions and fake compassion. Right? He was out there trying to engage with their ideas, trying to speak reasonably, trying to use analytics, and that's right. Reasons why you vote for something versus you don't vote for something, and why you should support something, why you should support something. But when emotion is used to rile up to get votes, it spills over and people feel emotional about something to the point where they start to justify violence, right? So this is an extremist. There's no type of analytical, I'm going to prove him wrong. This is an angry act, right? To silence somebody that's brought upon by the somebody thinking evil thoughts, which is not clear analytical thinking.
That's right. And you know what you mentioned earlier, it's like with the way that these people are vilified, it's when even Harry Scott on the chat said that Cenk is one of the people that for the previous 2 years has been radicalizing people, saying that Trump is fascist and that everything that he does is like a Nazi and this and that and the other. This is the thing. The problem is if you put these labels on people, then and I'm not saying that excuses violence, because it doesn't. It certainly doesn't. But if you don't expect that that's going to be some of the result, then you're just detached from reality. Because absolutely, when you keep labeling somebody Nazi, when you keep saying Nazi, like Ove Kid or whatever just said something about, if you keep saying that word, that's like giving people license to kill them. It's like telling them, now you're sanctioned. Now you have a reason, because
they're not human.
Because that's what we did to Nazis. As we fought them in World War II. We killed them, right? So that's what you do here. So that's ridiculous.
Let me tell you something. there has been, and we all know this, there has been a cold civil war brewing in this country for a while, and you could see it. You could see it starting, and I even got the inklings of this back when Trump was first elected, at the end of 2016. The hysterical reaction to his first victory already taught me that there is a decent segment of the population that, if they had their way, would have my head on a pike.
Yep.
The professional activists,
yeah.
And that's only gotten worse. And with this, and when you also see things, Frank, and we'll mention this too, like the shooting at the Catholic Church in Minnesota, where 2 children were murdered.
Yep.
And like what we found out about most recently, even though it occurred a few weeks ago, the brutal stabbing in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yep. In our own backyard.
Our state. Of Iryna, I forget her last name. The Ukrainian woman. Zarutska. The Ukrainian woman. So that brutal slaying. Like you say, it comes in threes, they say. Yeah. And this country is spiritually sick. And that whoever was in that chat who said that, that's part of the sickness.
Yeah.
Whoever you say no prayers for Nazis, get out.
Yeah, right. Like,
get out.
Right. I see. And I don't want to presume. I don't want to presume what they meant, because I don't know what they meant exactly here. But if they're referring to Charlie Kirk, he was about as far away from Nazism as you can get. Like, not even remotely in the same vicinity as a semblance of Nazi. And this is the problem, right? This is where people have gotten that warped, where they start equating random political pundits who are essentially centrists. They're like, see, Charlie Kirk was center right. If you start equating that with Nazism, you're lost, my friend. You are actually so far out from the deep end that if there's an extremist here, it's you. I'm not kidding. You're the extremist. If you think you can just go around calling, like, what is it, 80 million Americans Nazis, you're out there, buddy. You're gone. And okay, what did another wonderful secret said? Should we learn more about the suspect before blaming every Democrat? First of all, we're not blaming every Democrat.
I've specifically mentioned 2 very prominent left-wing people. One of them a politician who holds office that I will give props to, and one of them an extremely left-wing personality that I've never agreed with, hardly ever, and I will give him props as well, because he, at least on this point today, was doing the right thing.
Absolutely, and moreover, not only that.
There is a strain.
What I said about Charlie Kirk earlier too. He's not like a politician who holds office, right? Like, and he's not like the kind of person that's in public spheres in a variety of different ways. Like, Trump's picked up enemies from his business. He's picked up enemies from his personal life. He's picked up enemies from his execution in office. If this were Trump, I could see people having like kind of reserving judgment until we know more about the suspect. But Charlie Kirk's the kind of person where the only logical reason to assume that he was assassinated is for ideological purposes. It just doesn't make any sense to assume anything else. Like, if you were to put math behind it, it's like 99.9998% guaranteed to be an ideological motive. So, like, we don't have to play the game.
He didn't just sign a law that made your way of life illegal.
Right. He's done nothing. All he's done is talk and espouse the ideas that he finds most persuasive. And that's it. That is it. And we're not blaming all Democrats. We're blaming the ones that take shots at people and the ones that back them up. That's it. Right.
And celebrate.
I'll blame people on the right that do the same thing, right? Not too long ago, there was Senator Hoffman in Minnesota or something?
There are bad people on both sides.
There's bad people everywhere. There's fine people on both sides.
Bad people, tricks on both sides. But I want to say something really quick about, before we leave the topic of calling people Nazis. So calling people Nazis means you haven't done the research. You don't know what a Nazi is.
Right.
Right. You haven't taken the time to study the history of World War II and really learn what the Nazis are. You've just been passed this label. And the Nazis, right, Why they use that? That was something that everybody could unite against. Left and right, Americans, Nazis were the bad guys. Why they're the bad guys in films for so long is everybody could agree that the Nazis were un-American and an anathema to anything that we possess. So the left co-ops that because they want that uniting language. They want everybody to agree, and they use that label, which everybody should roll their eyes if they understand who Nazis were. Right?
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's been so long since World War II, and there's so many people who can barely find, North Carolina on the map, let alone take the time to do the research on World War II and who the Nazis were and what they actually did. Right?
You know what?
They just know Nazi is a
bad word.
Is a slur.
Yep.
Is a spam. And they're not deserving any type of compassion.
You know what drives me nuts? You know what a Nazi means to me? And I mean, I again, like, this is without like any deep research into the topic or discussing like what real fascism is or anything. What a Nazi means to me is someone who kills without proper reason, right? Because that's what the Nazis did. They went around and killed a bunch of people without proper reason. That's exactly what this moron did today. He went and killed without proper reason. It's sad that I actually kind of pine for the good old days where people actually killed for logical motives, like personal gain or like, to rob somebody or something. Like, that's terrible. But at least it was better than what we have today, which people just go around killing with no reason. They just go around killing because they're sick. And that's it. That drives me nuts. And it's so sad that we've gotten to this place in America. And I pray that we can return to some semblance of normalcy, to some semblance of recovering our morality, because we've lost it.
Yes, and that's one thing that I did hear from Ben today, is that this is definitely the worst. Definitely, you can say I don't know how much is contention with it, but the most devastating political assassination this country has suffered in at least 50 years. And, harkens back to like Martin Luther King Jr. or Malcolm X or someone who's relevant, obviously, John F. Kennedy. And I don't know if you saw Robert. This has got to bring up, bad memories for him.
Yeah.
For the Secretary of Health and Human Services. But this, and I pray that you're right, Eddie. I pray that we can get to a sense of normalcy, but this could turn nasty.
Okay, I hope it doesn't. I pray it doesn't. But you know what? Yeah, you're right. There's been a Cold War brewing in America for a long time, and I pray that this does not make it a hot one. I pray that this kind of thing simmers down. This is that would be the worst. I think probably the worst thing for America is to have that kind of like hot civil war, and I pray that you guys don't realize. It's funny that we're on the topic kind of gun control, sort of is like a tangent to this, because that's what the left always brings up the moment there's any kind of, even if it doesn't have anything to do with guns. Like, there's a stabbing and they're like, see, don't you wish we had gun control? And I'm like, what? So, but just on this point real quick, this is the one side of the equation that the left always loses, right? This is the one key point, right? They're always worried about trying to save lives, which is a noble pursuit, right? They're like, we don't want people to die, therefore we want to take guns away. Now, here's the problem. If you take guns away and people lose the ability to defend against the tyrannical government, then a civil war will take place, and it will be a bloody one. And without the proper defenses to deter it, civil war will dwarf any loss of life that you see year in and year out. It's like you see 20, 30,000 people die every year from mostly gun suicides, unfortunately. But if you see that and you think that's bad, just wait till you see 20 million go up in smoke when a civil war takes place. I promise you don't want that to happen. I promise you will prefer having guns in the hands of the citizens to deter a tyrannical government from taking those steps. I promise that's where you'll want to be after 20, 40 million people die. I promise. And I don't want us to ever get there. So if you are if you're only picking out the life on one side of that equation, you're forgetting about what life lost took place in the Revolutionary War, which caused us to create that amendment in the first place, then you're losing half of the picture. You're only making decisions based on the half that you see every day, and you're forgetting about down the road and what happened in our past.
I mean, I agree. I want to say this. The left has commonly said that they're not for political violence because they're for gun control. We want to take people's guns away. We want there to be fewer guns, so we can be for political violence, right? And it's right. It's not a get out of jail free card, just being for gun control, right? They have to be responsible.
Yeah, I don't think the assassin was very pro gun control. Now, was he?
Yeah, and you know,
and neither was
Anthony Rispo is somebody I follow on Instagram to look him up. He's was an elite. He's working on a PhD at Columbia who got red pilled, and has very very good insights about how the left views and justifies and promotes violence against their enemies. Right? Really, anybody that's not, and it's out of the Bolshevik playbook. It's about power. It's about being able to control people. Right in 2022, right about being able to use transphobia or other things to silence people, not just on that, but in all areas.
Yeah.
Right. The question Charlie was asked was about trans violence when he was shot. Right. This is a topic that is prescient. Right, that we need to take very seriously, and cannot be ignored just because if they're going to attack and use violence against people that want to talk about it or that want to suggest common sense solutions to it.
Yeah, Andy, to answer your question, no, the assailant is still at large at the moment. They had somebody in custody, an old dude, an old codger who had tried to petition against the event coming up, but I think that he just claimed that he was the shooter just to
obstruct justice,
or to to get in the way, or to get his day in the sun, or get his notoriety, to get his name in the papers or something. Like, what an idiot! But I mean, if that's really what happened, he's a complete idiot. But I'm hoping it was just a case.
You can go to jail too, frankly, if that's what it is. That is obstruction of justice. That is a crime.
Yeah, it probably gave the guy, the real guy, a couple of extra seconds to get away. So if he's done that, then he really has obstructed justice, because they need after a hot situation like that, the law enforcement officials need every split second to make decisions and make them as accurately and quickly as possible in order to catch jokes like this guy that took Charlie's life. And if you've gotten in the way of that, then you stopped some very, very key, very pivotal moments from, you've taken them away from law enforcement, and those are the biggest tools they have is time. So, yeah, I mean, I hope they do catch the guy. I mean, I'm going to stay abreast of it. I'll try to keep you guys. This
could take a while. It could take a while. Unlike with the Matthew Crooks was his name that tried to assassinate Trump, who was shot immediately. He got away. This assassin is in the clear, and this could be a significantly long-term investigation.
Yeah, he's in the way, and Christian and I were talking about. I mean, he's right by the highway. I mean, if he made a good, clean getaway, and he could get on there. He could be in Canada already.
Yeah, to get away. Obviously the law enforcement will have to look into that. And what did we see? I think you mentioned earlier that there was some kind of something going around online beforehand that hinted that something was going to happen.
Yeah. And so we saw.
The FBI needs to look into that.
Yeah, there's a trans. Was it trans man or trans woman? I hate to say this, but I can't keep them apart.
A man who claims to be trans.
I can't tell the difference often. They're always very androgynous, so it's very difficult, which is what they're going for. So they shouldn't be upset about this. But trans man or trans woman was said beforehand, like the day before. Hey, Charlie Kirk's coming to the campus tomorrow, and I really wish that. What did he say? So I really wish somebody would evaporate him or something like that. And then his next post was, something big is going to go down tomorrow. And they put the dog with this big screen smiley face up. And I'm like, even if nothing was going to happen, even if that person had no clue what was going to take place, that's got to be the dumbest thing on earth to do. Yeah, to say that.
Well, he did it to try to frighten people so that people would be too afraid to attend the event. right? That's the point of bomb scares or fake gun threats or fake active shooter threats, is just to disrupt an event or make sure that fewer people will participate.
Right,
So
that
that's to deplatform. They want to deplatform any type of opinion that is not right. Anyone that's saying the emperor has no clothes, they're going to try to deplatform.
Sure, right, and that's right. That's what this whole thing is about, right? Is to strike fear into people's hearts, to try to keep voices silent, right? To try to keep people like myself and Christian, the common men from common mansplaining, from trying to get our message out, because now, I've got my son on the other line saying, Daddy, don't get hurt. And that's just outrageous. Like the fact that we should be terrorized in our own homes on our own phones in front of our own computers, and we can't feel safe because of idiots like this guy going out and performing violence. That's just outrageous. That's just outrageous.
I have not felt, I can honestly say I haven't felt safe enough to put a Trump sign or a Turning Point USA sign in my yard, right?
Yeah.
Right, where I live, that if I want my family to be safe, I just have to.
You have to stay away. Yeah, you have to steer clear of it. I mean, I don't own any of those like Trump signs anyway, but I mean, if I had one, I'd probably put one up just to be belligerent at this point. But like, I'm not even a Trump fan, but it's like almost like I would do it just to, right, just to spite. What was it? You showed me that one video of the guy that like had electrified his Trump sign so that when somebody else goes up, they get shocked because they're trying to take it down. I can't remember. That was just hysterical to me. I'm sorry, but I thought about getting one of those, like give a little jolt, like a little.
One thing I am seeing in the aftermath of this despicable attack and this tragic day is that everyone right of center, and we all have our fiefdoms, right? We have disagreements.
Yeah.
I have disagreements with Charlie Kirk. There are plenty of disagreements with everyone that's right of center.
Yep.
We're all united right now.
Yeah.
We're all united, and this is going to stop.
Yeah.
And this is going to stop whether the left likes it or not. We're not taking no for an answer anymore.
Yep.
We're going to lose.
Well, and it's funny that this is. I mean, I pray that we can escape any sort of like confrontation. I really do. But it's for the longest time, it's always been the situation where it's like, do you really want to get engaged in a conflict with a bunch of rednecks with guns? I mean, because that's where
they use that too, and that's been pointed out before. I mean, that's not even anything new to say.
We don't want to.
The violence strain in the left is an uncomfortably high percentage of people. I would probably estimate at least, probably around double digit, 10% of the population is of the same ilk as Destiny or Hassan Piker, who are, even if they're too cowardly to pull triggers themselves, they're going to celebrate people who do.
That's so heartbreaking. Like it's so heartbreaking.
The percentage of people that are going to be armed against that, if they want to turn this hot, they are going to lose. And it's not. I didn't come up with this. Like this has been pointed out. You can find plenty of videos on there that discuss
we don't want it. We don't want it.
We don't want that too. Yeah, we don't want that.
Let me calm things down a little bit. So here's the thing. Nothing that was done today has changed anybody's mind, right? It's not persuasive. What it might do is make some people who have right of center politics be a little more private about them. Be a little more quiet. This is how you get the silent majority.
Yeah.
Right? But when they go to vote in the runoff election in here in November in a few months, right? They might not be putting signs in their yard, but they're not going to be voting for what the shooter wants them to vote for. They're not going to be supporting the type of government that the shooter wants. Right?
Yeah, it's the opposite.
So you'll have the silent majority who can be like, look, all right, I won't say anything and make myself a target, but when I go to vote in my private ballot, I'm not giving you power over me.
Yeah.
Right? And you will lose. You will not succeed in changing hearts and minds with this type of
it'll go the other way, right? This is the kind of thing, and it's funny. One of the things that Trump, for all of my disagreements with Trump, for as much as I dislike some of the things that he does, this is one of the geniuses that I see in Trump. One of the amazing things that he does is he'll make these like flamboyant, flagrant moves because he knows that the left's response will be even more flagrant. And so he knows that the moment that happens, he'll be able to, like, for example, the flag burning ban, right? I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that ban. But Trump is a genius because he knows the moment he says no flag burning, a bunch of morons on the left are going to go burn flags. And then when midterms comes along, all he has to do is put out video after video after video of idiotic flag burners and saying, is this what you want? And then they lose. And right. So like, you got to realize once you cross that line and you go to the violent edge of things, you're just you're shooting yourself in the foot. Literally. There's not a single person is going to have seen this event today and think, oh yeah, that means Charlie Kirk was wrong. No, if they're saying that, they already thought that. Not a single person will be convinced. And most people will go the other direction. There's going to be some people that are like, wow, I can't believe I'm on the side of idiots that will shoot somebody for no reason. Time to switch sides, right? That's the only thing.
Someone in chat here mentioned that they think that I might be being hypocritical by condemning the violence while calling for it. I'm not calling for violence. I'm not making any threats. No. I'm merely stating facts that if that violent strain of the left, which is at least 10% of the population, if they want to turn this hot, then they're going to lose because they are coming against us hick rednecks with all the guns.
Right.
And you know, it's funny. And there's probably about at least 40% of the population. So you have 10% against 40%, and they're all in the cities. So technically, they're not going to win. And
that's sad. But I mean, here's the thing, right? And I just want to be clear. I want to be 100% clear for everybody listening. We are not calling for violence. We abhor it. We condemn any kind of political violence at in the most severe terms, right? But what drives me nuts is, I think it was JC that said that, you know, that we're being hypocritical. The thing is if anyone's being hypocritical, it's the left, because the left is the one who says that we are supposed to be, you know, peace-loving, empathetic, and then they go do shit like this. Well, yeah. Right? It's the left that says we're supposed to be peace-loving, empathetic, and then they say things like, I want to read this quote to you. This is straight off of Blue Sky. You know, I'm an atheist too, but if he survives this, there is a God and he's a Nazi. Oh, maybe RFK can operate on him. This is the kind of bullshit that we have to go through every time this happens. When the right does something like this, I'm the first one to condemn it. The right condemns stupid, idiotic violence from right-wing idiots all the time, but the left doesn't. The left, it's okay when the left does it. When the left does it, they're like, oh, well, we don't know he's a Democrat. We don't know what his ideology is. Bullshit. We know what it is. We know what it is. There's no question about that. And I'm not one to curse very often. You got to understand how mad you've gotten me. You got to understand how scared you've made my son if I'm ready to take it to this level, right? This is ridiculous. Like, if I get calls from my son saying, Daddy, please don't die, that's when you've pushed me past the point of my calm, relaxed, you know, reserved demeanor, right? Which I'm usually a big proponent of. I'm usually a big proponent of, like, just staying calm, staying focused. That's when you've pushed me beyond that boundary, when you start getting to my family, right?
I want to say, you know, respond back to those who would say that Charlie Kirk provoked violence, you know.
Not at all.
Well, yeah.
I bet you doubt.
I'm saying that for criticizing the people that we're not allowed to criticize, right? The left would like to elevate their people of color, the homeless, radical Islamics like Palestinians, transgender people, radical transgender people. These people are supposed to be beyond criticism, right? And Charlie Kirk had the gall to criticize that, to call them out when they were things that were not American values, were not good for this country, that needed to be addressed. And right, you know, that type of thing is what we try to do too. Speak common sense beyond the elites would like to shut down debate, right? Right, and the media used to be right. They had control over the mainstream media. You couldn't get your voice out. Now the internet has democratized. Now our voices can get out there. The common man can be heard, and we need to be heard. And saying that yes, these things are evil. They're wicked. They're un-American. They're not what we want. We stand against them. We want a government that stands against them. We support those that, and we want people to vote with us against these. And Charlie Kirk was going out and not just doing was making his case and winning voters to our side. And for that, he is a martyr this evening.
Yes. And you know,
something else to point out here, like when it comes to specifically political assassinations that have taken place in recent decades, I can't think of one that was done in this country, at least, by a right winger. I think back to, I think, what was his name, Hodgkinson, who tried to, this back in early in the Trump's first term. Remember, he tried to shoot a ton of Republican congressmen.
The guy tried to kill Nancy Pelosi's husband.
Yeah.
I don't think that was a political assassination attempt.
Yeah. So, but no, there was.
I think that guy was just
hold on. There was a guy.
I could be wrong, but
there's a guy. Hold on. There was a guy earlier this year in June that tried to kill. What's his name? Bolter killed. He attacked Senator Hoffman and he killed the former House Speaker in Minnesota. What's her name? Hold on, I wrote it down somewhere.
Right, I do remember that now. Yes,
Melissa Hortman. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely morons on all sides of the equation. But I will say this: like the media has done a good job branding all violence as extreme right wing. They've done a good job playing that card. And so we have learned to like kind of assume that it's like far right is what it is, like equatable with violent like activism. But the truth is it's fairly just a human trait, right? Like it's just a human thing to be.
More than that, I mean,
just like when Jews are attacked or synagogue is attacked. Well, Jews normally vote Democrats,
right?
So this must have been right.
There must be right. They'll call it right. Like if somebody is right, if a Jew is attacked, right, it can't be a thing like where it's like an anti-Zionism thing from the left. It's got to be an anti-Semitic far right wing guy, right? But here's what I will say. We're floating in and out. Oh, it's you.
Sorry, my phone was getting low on batteries.
But here's what I will say. Of late, I have noticed a drastic shift. Like it used to be like either it kind of expected to be a right-wing extremist, or it would be like just a psycho, someone who's got all these like random contradictions in their ideology, which you really can't pin down where they are. But now, of late, it's kind of gone the other direction. It's kind of gotten to the point where it's a psycho with these contradictions, or it's a left-wing extremist. And I've seen that far more often of late. Like, I'm not saying that that's going to be a continuing trend, but it's just what I've noticed lately. I've seen a lot of trans violence. I've seen a lot of people who, identify as either Democrat or liberal or, or extremists on the, the socialist side. And I can't help but notice that the trend keeps on shifting. And I want to be clear that we need to be watchful of movements that produce greater concentrations of this extremism.
Very, very ominously, it's actually this because of what happened. This tweet of Charlie Kirk's was making the rounds when he predicted more left-wing assassinations not a month ago.
Yeah. And it's interesting. You mentioned, right. So you mentioned that people, the claims that I hear. So when this happened, when this went down, right. And I would told a bunch of my friends, I told a bunch of people on my debate forums and stuff, almost invariably, the responses I got from the left were, oh, he deserved it. Right. Because he said something, they would either claim that he said something violent himself, or sometimes they're like, oh, because he believes that, abortion rights is bad or something like that. And I'm like, wait, that deserves death? Really?
Being
it wasn't pro-life people chanting "Hail Satan."
Yeah, I mean, but I hear people. So this is one of the quotes that people point to when they say that Charlie Kirk called for violence himself. I want to address it because it's not correct, right? All right. So what Charlie Kirk said is that he called for these Nuremberg-style trials for the medical professionals who perform gender-affirming care. That's what they point to. They'll say that because he said that he is so violently opposed to trans rights that he deserved this fate. Now, I want to be clear about what that even means, right? Nuremberg trials were transparent, engaged in imprisonment, not violence, and had international but they had international cooperation. They were done. They had due process. They had lawyers and stuff like that. There was not a thing about Nuremberg style trials that is like unsanctioned at all.
Everybody watched it. They were just really public.
Yeah, well, see, here's the thing. The people that you're on those debate forums with, Eddie, I fully agree with Charlie Kirk on this point. So what does that say? What do they want to do with me? Should I die?
That's the thing, right?
You want to make my wife a widow? You want to make my children grow up without a father because you disagree with me? Because you think you debate people over there, you think that my family should lose their dad,
right?
Because you want doctors to keep chopping up kids. Fuck you.
Yeah. I mean, and don't get me wrong. Look, I understand that this is a highly emotionally charged situation. And I mean, I understand that people on both sides of the aisle are going to be emotionally charged about this sort of thing. I know people hate Charlie Kirk. I know this, right? I've never found that kind of hatred in my heart for someone like Charlie Kirk. I've never found it for someone on the left, like his left-wing proxy, like his left-wing counterpart. I mean, I don't like Destiny. I don't like Destiny. I don't like David Pac-Man. I feel like people like that are like, what's the best word? Slimy is a good word for it. They're disingenuous, they're false, and they're
self-serving.
They're very self-serving. And I don't think that Charlie Kirk is above being self-serving in his own way. But that being said, none of these people deserve violence. None of them. Not a single one.
They want to do it to me, and they want to do it to you.
Yeah, the kind of person who deserves violence is the kind of sanctioned violence that we authorize police action for. This moron that did this thing today. That's the kind of person that deserves police force violence. And I'm not saying that he should be shot. I'm saying that he's authorized to be brought into justice. And if he refuses this justice, then he gets whatever violence is a natural progression from that. That's the only kind of person that deserves the kind of sanctioned violence that we discuss here on. I don't want anybody to go looking for this person. I don't want any vigilantism. I don't want any kind of political targeting or anything like that. But that's the kind of person that we authorize violence against. We authorize the police to utilize force to bring someone to justice. That's all we would ever sanction on this channel, ever. So I don't want anybody to come away from this channel with the wrong idea. Yes, we're emotional about it. Yes, we're upset about what happened today. Yes, we're upset about the reactions. Really, like that's what really gets under my skin.
That's why I just lost my cool for a moment.
Yeah, I mean,
so you have to forgive me for that. I apologize.
Can we switch over to Iryna?
Yeah,
so
let's
get not a lighter topic or a happier topic.
Not,
but one that maybe we can be a little bit less emotional about. But so Iryna Zarutska, if you don't know, was a person who fled the Ukrainian war, came to North Carolina, had gotten a job immediately after establishing residence, was just trying to live peacefully, had a Black Lives Matter poster in her bedroom, and was riding public transportation from her job at a pizzeria when a homeless person with a diagnosed schizophrenia and a violent past, a long criminal record of antisocial behavior, unprovoked, took her life by stabbing her and killing her in a very violent, hands-on way.
Yeah.
Right. So this is proof, right? All the talking points that the Republican Party and the conservative people right on the political spectrum, concerns they have about homeless people, about not incarcerating or detaining the mentally unstable, not identifying a career or multiple recidivistic criminals and taking them off the streets, right? The no cash bail, all of that. It proved all of these right. It was documented in a very clear video. And the left is important because, they can't just acknowledge that the right is correct about this, and it proves that point, because they're still unwilling to make any changes, to really do anything to try to change the atmosphere of crime.
Furthermore,
and so the media reluctantly will try to ignore the story. But because of the democratization, we have X and we have the internet, the story could not be ignored.
Yep. Well, they tried to bury the story.
People know about it. And so that's a big thing is we know about this. It's very clear what the lesson is. We must, as common men, don't let the left try to spin this. It's unspinnable. What they have to do is acknowledge the truth and then take that to affect real change in the way they govern their cities, the way they affect and relate to people, even if they're peoples of color that might be on the political spectrum, their political allies, need to be incarcerated, taken off the streets because they're antisocial. This will destroy our American experience, right? What the government has to do, really quick, we create a social structure, right, where we police fraud and corruption so that people feel like they can do commerce in the marketplace. And when we have a marketplace that people trust, wealth explodes. And when you have streets that people feel safe to travel in, or public transportation travel in, then our experience, our culture explodes. But when you have something like this, it's an antisocial behavior. It's not just a crime against Iryna, as tragic against her work. It's a crime against everybody. Meant to drive everybody from leaving their homes, from going out and trying to use public spaces, right? And it's something that can be seen. It's a preventable death. It's something that people have every opportunity, every warning to deal with, and protect, to not have this person in a position where he could enact random violence against whoever happened to be near him when his sanity snapped.
Yep. Yeah. It's once again, it's a situation where it's not the situation that upsets me so much, but the reaction, right? This game where we try to bury a story, right? Where, again, I've said this on this channel a couple times, right? Where and it's not always the case, but more so the case that the right holds tight to principles, even in the face of results, right? So even if the result doesn't go our way, we'll hold to the principle, right? Because the principle is more important. Whereas the left will float around trying to find the results they want, even if it makes them abandon the principle on average. Now, that doesn't say everyone on the left does that. It isn't to say everyone on the right holds to their principles. But this is just yet again a situation where the left is seeking a specific result, and so they're willing to abandon the principle of upholding the law just so they can try to find that result, right? What they want, the result they want, is stuff like cashless bail. What they want is they want to create a situation where they defund the police, where they create less crime enforcement, where they
No, they want two-tiered justice.
Well, they want that too, right? Of course, they want it, right? They want the justice system to come down harder on those who they would deem privileged, and to come down.
Their political allies.
Let's be frank.
And so, of course, right, again, here they're willing to abandon what would normally be the reaction, which would be to just bring this heinous situation to light, right? They're willing to abandon that because they're afraid that would damage the results that they're seeking.
It too clearly proves the point that they've been trying to say doesn't exist. That violence isn't something that anybody needs to worry about. It too clearly disproves that it's something we vitally need to worry about. We don't have cities, we don't have countries, we don't have a community if this type of violence is not dealt with, and if we don't see the clear warning signals and take action.
Yeah. So I want to address something that was brought up earlier. So people ask if I was just as emotional when the Hortman murder took place, and I say absolutely, 100%. Okay. Yeah, I hated when that happened. And then not only, for different reasons, to be fair, like in both cases, ironically, I'm not as emotional at the murder itself although I should be terribly emotional about murder but it is an emotionally jarring situation. But murder isn't just something that gets to me. What gets to me is the responses to the murder and the situations that surround the murder, right? So like in this situation with Charlie Kirk, what gets to me is the reaction that I'm seeing on the left, the endorsement of the violence. That's what really hurts my feelings, right? The murder itself, yes, it's gory, yes, it's gruesome, but I can handle gore. I was in the military. That kind of stuff just doesn't reach me the same way. When the Hortman murder took place, it was like, again, the murder itself wasn't the problem. It was the fact that another right-wing extremist moron made my side look bad, right? That's what hurt me the most. And yes, I was very emotional about it. I hate when that kind of crap happens. I hate it. I hate when any kind of political violence takes place on either side, right? And I'm 100% principled in that, and I will not abandon that principle regardless of the circumstances. So if you guys are sitting there thinking, if you're on the left and you're sitting there thinking, yeah, right, he only cares when one side gets hurt, think again. That because
J.C. Smith, I see you're making a lot of comments here and criticizing us, which is fair. We invite the criticism, but what do we open with here? I open with giving credit where it was due to two very left-wing people, Senator Fetterman and Cenk Uygur. Like nothing. Those two people in Minnesota that were assassinated by a right-winger, nothing that those victims did made them deserve to die. Nothing they did made them deserve to die. And I do not want this. I really don't. I do not want this. Okay. I don't know that like my brother, what is getting to me and what is getting me emotional and what will make me lose my temper is when I hear people justify this violence against him for his views that I share, in fact, go further than. Yeah. Because that's the same principle. The logic would hold that you want to slit my throat too. Right. And you want to make my children grow up without their dad, and you want to make my wife lose her husband. Right? Because that's the only logical conclusion to that. How am I supposed to share a country with that? How am I supposed to have a civil society and live in communion with that? The only option I can see is exile.
So yeah, the common man is always hurt when their fellow man is hurt. That's just how it is. The common man is always hurt when their fellow man is hurt. And we will feel that empathy for anyone, right? Anyone, even the worst of people, I will feel that for. I felt bad when people like Saddam Hussein were tracked down. That's how bad that's how deep my love for fellow man goes. Now, that doesn't mean that I didn't think it needed to happen. It probably needed to happen, but I still feel bad when it happens, right? I will always feel this gut-wrenching pain anytime my fellow man is injured, anytime. And it doesn't matter what their political ideology is, I will always feel that way. That's just how it is.
Yeah. I know there are a lot of people on the left, and people are saying we've been using the left too much. There are common people on the left who abhor this, who right? It's the elite that we have a special contempt for, who see this, that they have to make score political points, that they can't give in, they can't concede that this is bad for them, that they have to immediately try to spin it and say, oh, we must have deserved it, or use derision, rather than realize, no, this is a terrible, terrible setback for the left, right? This is devastating news for them. It is a loss for them that they need to
do that. Uygur said as much, and he's right.
And that's the thing. Like, here's the thing. If you're on the left and your first reaction isn't to feel that same gut-wrenching pain that I feel, if your first reaction is to try to justify this because you're afraid of losing, like,
what did Katie say? Oh, how is Trump going to use this now?
Right. Yeah. If that's your first reaction, you need to do some soul searching. You need to look inside yourself and do some retrospection, because you are not thinking the same way that I think. You're not. This isn't the empathetic left I keep hearing about. If that's your reaction, okay. If that's your reaction, you need to go think about. You need to go in the corner and think about what you've done.
And what aboutism is not about recognizing the humanity of Iryna and Charlie, right? Well, the 1,600 criminals pardoned, right? The political criminals pardoned, and Trump being a political person, pardoned them for political reasons, right? So yeah, but he didn't kill or unalive anybody for political reasons.
Not only that,
right?
Charlie Kirk has deliberately and expressly and publicly, very publicly, spoken out against exactly this kind of violence on every side, like maybe 50 times or 100 times. He does it all the time. As a matter of fact, he barely can't go in an event before someone says, Charlie Kirk, isn't it true that you believe blah, 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 and insert something stupid and violent here? And Charlie Kirk's like, no, that's wrong. I don't believe that. And anybody who commits political violence should be abhorred and denounced. He says it like literally every single event. I don't understand how someone can misconstrue that. But except I do, because what happens is people, they listen to the media paints him in a negative light, and so they get this thought in their head like, oh, Charlie Kirk is the devil, and devils need to be expunged, right? And that's all they start thinking. And the same thing happens with Trump, and the same thing happens with everybody else. It doesn't matter how bad of a political pundit this person is. It doesn't matter. Like, you could be a crazy lunatic like Alex Jones, and Alex Jones is out there. Still doesn't deserve this kind of violence. You could be absolutely psychotic and still not deserve this. Nothing, like basically
no ideas. Yeah, just talking.
No idea could ever put you in a place where you deserve this kind of violence, or even deserve the reaction that the left is giving, which is that they deserve this kind of violence. Even that you don't deserve. So if you guys are in that camp where you think that this is deserved in any way, think again, guess again, and do some retrospection. You really need to look at yourself.
Yeah, especially those who are trying to justify Iryna's murder as that black people are entitled to violence or something like that. Just schizophrenic.
Yeah,
right. He wasn't killing out of any motivation. He had a lots of sanity.
Yeah,
a lots of sanity that
maybe even that was best.
I do want to talk about Iryna a little bit more.
Yeah,
one of the things people criticize is the magistrate who, in his last arrest, when he called the police 911 and was complaining about essentially he was having a schizophrenic episode, clearly unwell, that there were things inside his body trying to control him.
Right. Chips.
That she didn't do anything about it. Right. Now, magistrates are not the same as judges.
Right.
That's it. They don't go to law school. They're essentially like part of the police department. They just have, right, because you don't want to pay. We need so many magistrates as a matter of process. You don't want to pay them like people who've gone to law school.
Right.
So these are lower paid people. They do have guidelines, or usually have guidelines from the Department of Justice, from the district attorneys. Now, what's happened in these more liberal cities is the district attorneys have told them, to not do cashless bail, to try to find ways to not
let them off.
Right, especially people that are of color or poor or homeless. And sometimes it's for budget reasons, sometimes it's for ideological reasons. But this was clearly, right, somebody who, in hindsight, surely should have recognized this person was dangerous to others, right? And certainly not just done a cashless bail. But there are people who can spend months and months in prison.
He didn't even pay his bus fare, or his train fare.
He didn't even pay his bus fare. See, this is the thing, right? All right. So my thing on this is what happened to insane asylums, right? Like,
I can tell you what happened. I was actually in wake of that before today. I was actually looking that up and did a little bit of research. What happened was there was a Supreme Court case in the 70s, which basically considered that the way insane asylums were being run, and whether someone basically sued this saying his civil liberties were being violated by being forcibly institutionalized, and the defendants, the insane asylum themselves, basically the only defense they offered was, we say he belongs here. That's it. That's really all they could say. And it was actually, I believe it was 9-0. Did the insane asylum lose, and he was forced to be released. And so ever since then, basically forced to forcibly institutionalize someone got so much harder. And that's why just the insane asylums themselves couldn't stay in operation, because they basically no one for the most part.
The reason that's weird is because I've heard again, I would need to do some research too, but I've heard of events where people are being committed against their will by like family members and stuff like that.
Still happen. In fact, in this, you bring that up. The Brown, the murderer, his mother wanted him committed, forcibly committed, and it didn't happen. And there were so many institutional failures in this case that we already have laws on the books and things on the books that could have stopped it. Like I said, he didn't even pay his train fare. He shouldn't have been let on for that. But even that was broken. And now a young woman is dead.
His rap sheet is like, I mean, it's long. I could go into
it's as long as my house. Yeah, it's absurd.
After his second felony, and then like the next offense he committed, he should have been like, bam, like gone right back.
3 strike laws, but that I want to know what happened to. What happened to the 3 strike laws? 3 violent felonies, and you're done.
North Carolina has laws now. Again, this has been governance that too far in cities, the left has felt like they have such large majorities, they don't have to really be responsible to their population. They can govern like, oh, I wish the world was like this, and just ignore realities, right? Wouldn't it be great if there were no evil people out there, no mentally ill people, or nobody that wanted to commit violence? I know in my perfect bubble where I live, it's an elite, nobody's violent, so let's just pretend that the whole city's like this, right? This is slamming them in the face that their bubble that the elites live in, right? They don't have to ride this public transportation. They don't, right? They have security details. They don't have to worry about somebody killing them unprovoked, right? So this is something that they in their lives will never encounter. But now that it's something that they have to realize, they have to change the way they govern their cities, right? And
they won't.
They
will never do that. That will never happen.
No, it's probably not going to happen because again,
that will never happen.
They're going to abandon.
You will never get any institutionalized center of power in a left-wing city to change. That will never happen.
Yeah,
Which is why the only real option is just to leave him, just to get out.
I want to address something that Texas Nightmare's been pushing for the last like half hour or so. But so I guess. So Texas is essentially asking the question why we care about this particular incident, right? And again, so we've answered this if you're paying close attention, Texas. The reason that the Iryna Zarutska incident is such a big deal is because the left tried to bury it. Because the media tried to bury the whole situation. Because it wouldn't have been that big of a deal. I mean, sure, it would have been a lapse. It would have been a tragedy, and it would have been a lapse of institutional, like systemic, justice. It would have been a lapse of our justice system. But it would have just been one of many until they tried to cover it up. Then all of a sudden, it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. The more you want to cover something up, the more we want to shed light on it, right? So that's part of the problem. And then the other question that you're asking is that, what is it? Are we supposed to be? I guess, are you just saying that we're supposed to be okay with this? It definitely has nothing to do with the guy's race, right? It's got nothing to do with the guy's race. It's not big of a deal because he's black. It's a big deal because, one, they covered it up, and two, because he's got a huge rap sheet and shouldn't be out in the open because he's obviously not able to live with society cohesively.
He doesn't have executive function. To be able to
hold on. And I would say the exact same thing if he was white, blue, yellow, cream, whatever. It wouldn't matter. It doesn't matter what his race is. All that matters is, can he live with society or can't he? Are they trying to cover it up or are they not? That's it. That is all.
Something else that needs to be mentioned here.
There were warning signs, right? If this guy had never had a clean rap sheet, had never jaywalked in his life or anything like that, and had just randomly killed someone, right? That would have been a tragedy. Why we're up in arms is because there was, right, we're dying of not surprise that this person acted out again. He knew it was going to happen. He was a walking time bomb.
His mother knew it was going to happen.
By the people that we trust to stop this, right? To create that social structure where we feel safe to go out in our community and do things, right?
Couple of things.
When they have an opportunity to take a bomb off the street and they don't, this is something that we need to hold them accountable for. That's why it matters, and it's not spittable.
Yep.
Yeah. Something else that I want to mention here too. Yeah. Something else here is that it was another political channel that I follow is Shuan Head, a woman who's basically a left-wing populist, but she's has a wide variety of views. But she made a great point on this whole situation, and that you cannot have both, robust public transportation, which is a cow of the left, and also soft on crime policies in tandem. Otherwise, you get mess like this. Right. And like the guy who's running for mayor in New York, wants all public transportation to be free, and he also wants basically to abolish all the police and to let everyone out of jail. And that kind of idea where you have free public transportation and also no prisons is kind of a contradiction here.
Yeah.
And something else I need.
No, here's the other contradiction. New York is the hardest place for you to carry a gun. Right?
Right.
Yeah. Create a situation where you'll only be safe if you are packing. And they make it, that's the hardest place for people to legally.
Yeah. Our kingdom for a Daniel Penny in that situation. Maybe things would have been different. And speaking of things being different, something else that I have to mention is that unfortunately, when I watched that video, which kept me up all night, and then this happens today, was the utter lack of compassion by everyone else in that car.
Yeah.
Like the utter lack of, like, everyone just like she was on the ground for 2 minutes before someone helped her, and
nobody even reacted.
No one. It would have been helpful for like a couple of, like maybe 10, maybe 20 seconds to process what was going on. But after that, when you see this woman bleeding out of her neck and you do nothing, you get your phone out and walk away.
Look. When people encounter a situation like that, they've never been, and they go into a sort of shock. What they look for is social cues.
Yeah.
If one person had started helping her, everybody would have.
Yeah.
What they look for and nobody does, they think, okay, the appropriate response here must just be to
I don't know.
Social psychology. Take social psychology.
To be fair,
they made the wrong decision. But I'm saying, in a situation that's so extreme like that, you've never encountered, you don't know what's appropriate. What's the right thing to do?
I got to
move. Don't even bother calling 911. Like no one there even bothered calling 911. Someone else from another car.
To be fair, one of the reasons that you and I don't understand this kind of thing is because we kind of defy a lot of that social psychology, right? Like I will always remember the days where I went up to I can't tell you how many times I've gone up to a college, professor's door and waited outside with a bunch of other people that are waiting outside, and I'm like, is it unlocked? And they're like, we don't know. And then I open the door and walk in because everybody's just waiting because everybody else is waiting, right? I'm just one of those guys who just doesn't conform. So I'd be the first person to jump out, and then of course everybody else would do it. Sure, but there are plenty of people who just really will just sit there and wait outside of a closed door for hours.
They all saw the assault. They all saw an assault. Even if they weren't necessarily sure of, the actual danger she was in, they all saw an assault, and then she collapsed. Right. And they walked away.
But the other thing too is it's domestic abuse situation. They don't know exactly what's going on. There are a lot of situations where you get involved, you're putting yourself at risk. Now I would do it because again, I'm a little bit more cavalier with that sort of thing. But that doesn't mean that there isn't a reason not to get involved.
Put it this way: if anyone put their hand on that wound, if anyone put their hand on that wound, she might still be alive.
Right. And yeah. I mean, maybe. I mean, that was I got to say, for both incidents today, they were just such perilous case. Yeah, both neck wounds, both such immediate traumatic events that I was stunned that Charlie Kirk wasn't dead by the time he hit the ground. I was stunned that he wasn't already. I mean, it was just such a heavy. And with this chick too, three different stabs, and then that's just such a heartbreaking. It's so tragic. And again, both of these situations should have been 100% preventable. They shouldn't. It should be issues that just should never occur. Just should never occur.
Yeah, especially the first one as a tactical matter, it was just a colossal, comedy of. Not really comedy, but evil comedy of errors that allowed that man, Brown Jr., to be where he was. For honestly, and here's the scary one, honestly, if we're going to bring this up, the tactical situation for Kirk's assassination, I don't know how you defend against that without like clearing those rooms,
you have snipers. You have your own snipers.
Secret Service level security, but even then they screwed up last year.
Yeah.
So
I want to address what Richard asked. So Richard says, can you guys answer this question? What would happen if the killer turns out to be from the right? Is he going to get the same? Well, it's just floated up. Is he going to get the same penalties if he doesn't turn out to be from the left? So first of all, I have no power over what penalties he receives, right? So like, I won't be able to claim what penalties he gets. That'll be determined in a court of law, hopefully if they catch him. That's if they're even able to catch him. If you're asking me what penalties I feel he deserves, there.
Capital murder. How about that?
Yeah, capital murder. He deserves to be put in jail for a good portion, if not the rest of his life, or at least institutionalized, hospitalized for the rest of his life.
You're talking about penalty state, isn't it?
Unless it was like the Hinckley, where he was trying to impress a girl by taking Charlie Kirk, and he would be in a criminal mental state, but he would be incarcerated. But I mean, that's a rare circumstance.
Now,
sorry.
Now, what I will grant is what JC says is that it is likely that the media will pivot, right? Not the justice system is too public, and I suspect that even though the right wing media will try to pivot, the left wing media still holds the predominance of sway. So it's not really going to matter, right? Like it's still going to be in the news a million times. There's going to be no way to avoid it. So it's not like
you said, Eddie, earlier. The reaction is that Charlie Kirk from the violent strain on the left, which is still there, even if, like you said, the 0.0001% chance that this guy was assassinated Kirk from like his views on Israel or something like that. If that was to happen, it's still the reaction on the violent strain of the left is that he deserved it for his other views that we hold.
Right.
Which means that I still can't share a country with them.
And here's the thing, if you think, hold on, I want to finish addressing this. So, because if you think that the left doesn't try to pivot away from situations on the left, that you're crazy, right? They're the ones that invented the pivot, right? Like they're the ones that
buried the story.
They're the ones that buried the Iryna Zarutska story in the first place. They're the ones that are trying to downplay the Charlie Kirk thing right now. Look, hold on. I can go on line right now. I just want to read you some headlines. This is kind of funny because I just want to read this. These are the headlines at the top. Charlie Kirk, close Trump ally, right? They try to associate him with Trump. Charlie Kirk, far-right extremist. Look, this is the kind of stuff you get immediately from the left wing. They immediately start putting labels on him that at least mitigate responsibility. And again, try to make him like slightly unlikable, slightly more deserving of his fate.
Less relatable.
Less relatable, absolutely. And you know what? Even so, I'm happy to concede that the right wing is going to do what the right wing media does, and the left wing media is going to do what the left wing media does. That's just par for the course for media. Now, if the justice system tries to do something fishy with two different tiers of justice, I'll speak out against that just like I always will. And I'm not as easily pivoted from one story to the next simply because one story produces more embarrassment. Partially because I have no partisan ties. I'm registered libertarian, right? So like I don't really care about the Republican Party either. So I don't really care about the stuff that makes. Now I do have ideological ties to the right, which is my conservatism. I'm still conservative, and so I'll try to stick up for my conservative ideology. But I'm not going to stick up for idiots that are on the right that are going around shooting people. And now with this situation, though, as we've covered maybe 5 times already tonight, there really is no possibility for this guy being a left winger. There are really only 2 logical possibilities. One is that he's for being a right winger. The only 2 logical possibilities are: 1, he's a left wing ideological nut, and he's doing this for ideological.
He disagreed with Charlie.
Disagree with Charlie.
Ideology.
Or 2, he's just a nut in general, and he has some random smattering of contradictions, right? Like the Crooks guy who like donated to the left but voted, or did all this weird weird stuff.
Or like Joker who wants to see the whole world burn.
Right, yeah.
Here's again, I think my point, right, because my closing statement on both of these things is we don't have to stand for this, but the way to affect change is to vote. Well, right, we can donate money to the sides that, but if you're in Charlotte and you vote for any of the people in power that allowed this, right? The mayor, the district attorney, any of those people that allowed this culture where this can, and you vote for them again this November, the next time they're up for election, right? Then you have not learned the lesson of Iryna Zarutska, and you're going to make your city worse.
Yep.
You honor her by voting for change.
Yep.
And Charlie, the same thing. You honor Charlie by not taking in the left-wing orthodoxy, challenging, especially in academia, challenging it just like he challenged it. Look at the left wing's ideas. You can read them, but read them skeptically, and get an additional viewpoint. Don't just live in a bubble where you only hear one side of any argument. Come to Common Mansplaining. We will explain it to you. Like and subscribe and send us money. We will help you to navigate these troubled times. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, definitely. Matt, you got any closing thoughts on this?
Yeah, a couple of closing thoughts. One of the things that I wanted to mention is that in both of these cases, especially the Zarutska slaying, though, the left-wing media, the first thing they did was make the story about us, about our reaction to it. It's the old Republicans pounce or MAGA pounces canard that's so often done. Every time the left looks bad in any way, it's not about the story. It's not about an innocent woman being brutally stabbed and murdered. It's about us being upset about it. We are the problem because we're upset about, an innocent woman, a 23-year-old girl having her life ripped away from her. And immediately today with Katie Tur, although we knew Charlie Kirk wasn't going to survive instantly, it was extremely unlikely for him to survive. Katie Tur, the first thing that pops out of her mouth is, "Oh, what's Donald Trump going to do? And how's he going to use this?" It's despicable. It's disgusting. And yes, I don't want to share a country with them.
It's very low.
Yeah,
I really don't want to share a country with them at all.
Is anybody
go to Canada?
Look, again, I don't have any partisan ties. Is anybody really going to be surprised if Trump tries to use something to score political capital?
He's a politician.
I mean, that's what his job is, right? And to be fair, again, I understand the left-wing media is going to do what they do, right? That makes sense to me. What really jars me is all the random nobodies who gain nothing from political capital, but are still out there campaigning like they're shooting for office, who gain nothing. Like the people I spoke to on my debate forums who just want to slander Charlie Kirk for no other reason and say that he deserved this fate for no other reason other than to say it. They're not going for office. That's not their job to put a political, like a media spin on things. They're just saying it because they want to be mean, because they're cruel and they're heartless and they don't care about their fellow man. It's got nothing to do with politics, right? When Trump does it, of course it's political. Of course Trump's going to do political stuff. When the left-wing media does it, when the right-wing media does it, it's political. I get that. But these random people, these random Joes who don't have any connection to politics, who are just being ruthless and cold, shame on you. Shame on you. So anyway, that's all we got for you today, guys. Sorry that it didn't have the typical upbeat tone that this channel usually does. Sorry that it was so it was dark, it was tragic, and
I apologize for losing my temper at one point.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sorry that this is just a very emotionally charging situation, and it does strike fear into people, like my son. I hope
regular people are affected by this.
It really is, and I hope that we can get past this as a nation. I hope that we can come together. Wouldn't that be crazy? Like it used to be. I remember a nation that when people like JFK were assassinated, the right condemned it too. The right came together. We coalesced when that happened. When things like that took place, we used to come together as a nation. When 9/11 happened, which is tonight in a couple of hours, we came together. Why can't we still do that? What's happening in America that we can't still do that? So I pray we can. I truly do. I pray we can. And I do want to have all of those people come together so that we can share that same nation with them. But anyway, we'll catch you next time on Common Mansplaining.
Keep it coming.
Keep it coming.
Keep it coming.
Yep. There we go.